Okay, in this set of tutorials what we're going to look at is putting a bone structure inside this fish. So this is what we're going to hopefully end up with, or something like this. So this is just a quick animation on this, just to show the deformations. You can see we've got a head bone, we've got a jaw bone, we've got bones down the, essentially the skeleton, the spine of the fish, into the tail and out to each of the fins. What I'm going to do is just start off with a new scene, just to look at joints for a second. I'm actually going to take this back into side view, and let's look at the tools. So I'm going to change my modules over to animation, and I'm also going to bring my icons over to animation as well. So the tool that we're going to be looking at is the joint tool. Okay, this creates a hierarchy of bones with different joints. So let's go ahead and have a look at this. So click on the tool and we'll just click anywhere we want the bones to be. I'm just clicking on the lines. You don't have to, you can click them anywhere you want. Okay, and then we press enter to finish the chain off. So a couple of things about this chain. The first thing is that the influence of this all lies with this bone here. This was the first bone created. This is the root bone of this particular hierarchy. So whatever we do to this bone, whatever we move it, let's just go into perspective. If we just rotate this, anything we do with it at all, the rest of the bones will follow. These can still move independently, so these can still rotate. But they're ultimately influenced by this bone. Okay. So you need to think about where the root bone in your particular hierarchy needs to be. This is an important factor. We'll look at this more as we go through. So what can we do with this bone structure? Well, the first we can do is we can edit it. If you don't get a bone in the right place, go into this view again. So if we're to go in and move these bones around, we can actually move them around this way, so we can change the scale of the bones. You see it adjusts the scale of the joint before that. And we can also move these bones up as well. You see when I move this one, it moves the chain as well. Okay, so I can move this up, we could bring this one down. So if you want to create a more complex structure, or you want to edit an existing one, we can do that. Now, one thing to note on this is the orientation of these joints. So right now, if we just look at these, you can't really tell what's going on with this in terms of the orientation. Just going to click on these joints. I'm just going to go over to display, transform display, and local rotation axes. So this is showing us the actual orientation of these individual joints. This is X based, so the X is always looking down the joint. Okay, Y up on all of these. The X axis itself should be looking down the actual chain towards this next joint. This is really important for animation. So let's go and see how we can fix this. If I just go into this right now, and I'm going to go to skeleton, and we're going to go to the orient joint. I'm just going to click on the settings for this. Let's go in and just reset. So our primary axis on this is our x-axis. This is the one that's pointing down the length of the joint towards the next joint in the chain. Our secondary axis is the up node, so this is the y-axis in our case. So x and y. I'm going to leave that as it is, okay, and just orient. And if you just watch the orientation of this, particularly the x-axis, you can see now it's pointing up the chain. Okay, so let's do the same with this one. This is actually fixed. This is pointing down the chain now. and this one is pointing down the chain anyway. Okay. The reason it fixed all of them is because when I clicked on this, if I just go back, to this, let's click on this, back to our skeleton, back to our orient joint. We've also got this checked, orient children of selected joints. If we don't have that checked, just uncheck that, orient. It only does this particular joint, and then we would have to go in and do the others manually. In this case, just this one, but if you've got lots of them, it may be worthwhile having that checked. If you want ultimate control, just uncheck that, and then you can go in and orient the joints as you wish. Okay, so I'll just go in and orient this one just down, and this one's already done, going down its length. The last thing on this is this node at the end. This usually needs to be outside the mesh. We'll look at this more when we look at the fish specifically, but you don't generally use this to skin to or to bind to, so it usually sticks outside of the mesh, in wherever this is, outside the fingers or the top of the head. If you just go into the attribute editor for this, this joint orient down here, this really needs to be zeroed out, so I'm just going to zero that. It's worth checking this for all of your end bones, just to check the orientation of this is always 0. Okay. So what else can we do with joints? We can remove joints, so we can actually click on a joint and we can just go to skeleton, remove joint. Now this is pointing, it's changed the orientation of the last one, so it's just something to be aware of. Click on this and let's just go to insert joint. So I can go in here, and if we need to add more sections into a bone, into a joint, we can actually go in and click on anywhere down the chain and just drag out to where you want that bone to be. Okay, do the same thing here, and notice this is keeping the orientation. If we was then to go into one of these joints, actually move it about or rotate it, I would have to change the orientation of this again. Okay, so just something to bear in mind. And if we want to see that orientation again, we can go to display, we can go to transform display and local rotation axis. So you can see that's pointing down towards that. Let's just have a look at this for a second. Let's just go in skeleton, let's go into orient joint, yeah, that's okay. So there's a few things you can do with bones. Okay, we can create bone chains, we can remove joints, we can add joints into there, and we can edit joints and move them about, but just be wary of this orientation. So to remove that orientation display, we can just shift click on all of these now, or I can click on the first joint, go into edit, and we can do a select hierarchy, which selects all of them, and then we can go into display, transform display, local rotation axis. I've got these two on there. Let's just do that, display. Okay, and let's just get this N1. There you go. And that's just a quick look at our quick introduction to joints, and we'll look at those specifically to the fish in the next video.